was told to deliver this message.
Assalamu alaikum, family. It's your brother Landon X. It's the Separation Series Part 2. And we are going to deal with the fact, according to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that separation starts between the ears, and then it makes its way down to your pockets and then to your feet. We're going to talk about it. Let's go.
I was told to deliver this message.
The expression, each one teach one? Of course you have. But what if each one teach one was an actual website instead of just an expression of words? Log on to doforself.net and experience the Underground Freeway, which is a free online collection of step-by-step how-to and do-it-yourself subjects ranging from how to quit your day job, repair your credit, investments, alternative currency, and much more. It also features interviews from real people, real professionals with real expertise and information ranging from entrepreneurship, real estate, art, education, physical fitness, the medical field, filmmaking, and much more. Just log on to doforself.net, choose your subject, pick a video, and get it in. Once again, it's 100% free. And not only is Underground Freeway free, but you can also earn rewards every month based on how many subject videos you watch. The subject videos are broken up into 10 to 15 minute step-by-step tutorials, so you can go at your own pace. Each one teach one is no longer just an expression. Now it's a movement. So log on to doforself.net, pull up on the Underground Freeway, and let's get free. everybody. It's your brother Landon X, and this is NationTown TV Live, and we are continuing the Exposed series. Now, when we say exposed, we're not talking about the way that word is used on social media normally. We're not trying to put nobody out, put somebody on blast or put something on blast. The actual meaning of that word, expose, is to actually reveal the true nature of a thing and what it actually is. And right now we're dealing with separation. Last time was a little bit of an intro. This time we're going to go a little bit deeper, starting with the 3 steps that we talked about: the mental, the financial, and then of course after that is pretty much whatever you will at that point. But of course people talk about the geographical or the physical. So we're going to talk about separation as taught to us by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But speaking of which, let me start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever plus 1,000 days as far as I'm concerned. And we are forever thankful, really, to all of the messengers and all of the prophets who have come from God. But we were promised in the Holy Quran that a messenger would be raised for every nation, not some nation, not a couple of nations, not this nation or that nation, but for every nation. And for this nation, and I don't just mean an organization, I'm talking about the 50 million or more here in America, or the 4,400,000,000 all over the world. That messenger for us is, whether you like it or not, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But I would know nothing about those two, Master Fard Muhammad and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if it were not for our divine leader, teacher, guide, and criterion, and I miss speaking none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And then those 3 fantastic names, I greet you in the words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. Shout out to all the NationTown family. I see you chiming in. Sister Sherry Sargent, Muslim Muhammad, Sister Shirley Stewart. We have Brother Derek Joe, David Jefferson. Shout out to the family. And we're going to get into it. I hope you saw last week's introduction to this series, where we broke down, where we're inshallah breaking down what separation actually is. Because I'm afraid, and I don't use that word lightly, afraid, that even with us believers, and with those who think they know better, this is of course the woke generation, we may be at the point where we're taking that word separation and it's just turned into a spooky word or a mystery word that's being used all the time, but we don't really know what it means. A good example is how our Christian family, many of our Christian family in the black community, they throw Jesus' name around. They throw that around without really knowing much about Jesus and what he really stood for. And we all susceptible to that kind of thing when something just becomes tradition and we lose the substance. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, we do want you to hit us up with your questions and comments as we go on. We went a little overtime last time. I know I say it every time that we're not going to be on long. I really don't want to get on long. But, you know, the questions, the comments, and also just kind of expounding on the topic sometimes, you know, time gets a little out of our hands. But this is NationTown TV Separation Series Exposed, brought to you by doforself.net. It's 100% free. It is simply a way for us to not only figure out all the many ways that we can separate, but some more details as to how. But we also have interviews as well as certain topics on You know, how to quit your day job, the whole still away process. Make sure you hit up doforself.net. Also hit us up on NationTown Store.com. Get you, among other things, some Eating Fresh. We have that shea butter lotion. We have that liquid gold. If you don't know about liquid gold, then you losing in life. So make sure you hit that up, NationTownStore.com. And speaking of supporting black businesses, we got something else that we're going to try to do. We're going to strive to do on every episode of NationTown TV Live. We want to have our Do for Self City of the Day. Do for Self City of the Day, where we just simply going to highlight a particular city, not for the sake of the city, but we're going to randomly pick a black-owned business in a particular city and just put it on a positive blast. So if you happen to be in that city, happen to travel to that city, you can actually experience that particular black-owned business. And the city of the day is going to be the DFW, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we want you to go hit up Black Coffee. Black Coffee, a black-owned coffee shop. Leave Starbucks alone, man. Leave them $10 cups of coffee alone and go hit up your own black coffee shop. BlackCoffeeFW.com. Hit them up. Black Coffee FW. It's actually in Fort Worth, Texas. 1417 Vaughn Boulevard, Fort Worth, Texas, 76105. Now, a little disclaimer. Like I said, we randomly pick black-owned businesses in these particular cities and towns. We're not being paid to promote those businesses. We just doing it randomly just for the love and the understanding of the value of doing business with black-owned businesses. And so if you go and you don't like it, don't be mad at NationTown TV. We just randomly pick one, you know. But if you don't like it and you go there and you want to stop dealing with black-owned businesses altogether, well, just keep that same energy with your enemy. Next time you go to Starbucks, they say something you don't like, they get your order wrong, I want you to say, you know what, that's why I don't mess with white-owned businesses. All praises due to Allah. And also, if you notice, I'm trying to remove from my vernacular, from my vocabulary, the turn of phrase support black businesses. I'm growing uncomfortable of putting it that way, because support sounds too much like charity. It sounds too much like what you do when you drop some pocket change in some homeless man's cup, when you're coming out the store. The enemy gets the folded money, the real money, and then you come out the store and then you support somebody that's outside the store with a cup in their hand. And that's really our problem. We giving black-owned businesses the change instead of the real money. But this episode, we're going to deal with the mental aspect. You can't get away from the financial, but we're gonna try to focus on the mental aspect. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Nikki Huff, Brother Wayne X, all praises due to Allah, Dante Tenya, and so forth. Hit us up with your questions and comments as we go forward. Thank you, Brother Muslim. But we're going to start off, first of all, by kind of rehashing the importance of separation. Now, you may or may not be a Muslim. Chances are you're not. But we may also have some Muslims chiming in. I'm sure we do. The NationTown family is full of them. We may have Orthodox Muslims. We may have Muslims under the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But if you are a Muslim under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, then you are very much familiar with what I'm about to show you. In Message to the Black Man, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad dropped something on us that was so profound that I'm sure some people who think that they're familiar with Islam probably rejected it the first time they read it or heard about it. Let me show you what I mean. This is in the book, the monumental book. I call it the Black Man's Bible. And in this book, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that it is more important. In fact, he says it is far more important to teach separation of the blacks and whites in America than it is to teach prayer. Separation is more important than teaching prayer. Now, like I said, some people might feel some kind of way about that. And some might even, and this is something that a lot of our Orthodox family, who I have nothing but love for, whether they have love for us or not, anybody that's taken a shahada, I love and respect you, even if it's not returned. But you often hear, oh, I have never heard that, I have never seen such a thing in the Holy Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet. Okay, well, let's actually deal with the Holy Quran. We touched on this last week, but I left out this quote from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which I intended to actually bring up first. We're going to do it right this time. For those who may wonder if this teaching that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us, this particular quote, where he says that it's more important to teach separation than it is to teach prayer, I'm telling you that that's in the Holy Quran. Let's check it out. This is from your Holy Quran. I believe it's Surah 2, 238. It says, guard the prayers. It's specifically talking about prayer, but pay attention. Guard the prayers and the most excellent prayer, and stand up truly obedient to Allah. But check this out. It goes deeper. It says, but if you are in danger, if you are in a dangerous situation, a dangerous environment, say your prayers on foot or on horseback. And when you are secure, remember Allah as he has taught you what you knew not. But if you are in danger, I posed this question last week and I'm going to pose it again to the NationTown family. Is the black Aboriginal man in America, are we in danger? Is this a dangerous environment for the Aboriginal man? Has it been a dangerous environment for us for over 450 years? Absolutely. Turn on your television. We become so mentally destroyed by our enemy that we're even a danger to ourselves. We become a danger to ourselves, but it is absolutely a dangerous environment. So what must have to happen is there must be a separation. Remember, it says you can say your prayers on foot or on horseback. You get up on your feet and you get up on a horse, or in the modern context, you get in your car for the sake of separating, of physically separating yourself from that danger. So that proves in itself right there, the Holy Quran is telling you that even when it's time to make salat, if you are not secure and if you are in danger, you need to kick rocks. You need to get secure. This is the Holy Quran. Let me bring it up. Let me bring it up again. Because sometimes you gotta do something called you gotta really use deductive reasoning. So when you read something, you gotta not only read what you see, but also read what you don't see. You don't see Almighty God Allah right here saying, you know, guard the prayers, but you know what? Pray regardless. Wherever you are, pray. No matter what's going on, man, put a gun in your head, break down into salat and pray on it. And God will swoop down like a superhero and save you. You won't find that kind of teaching in the Holy Quran. And if you ever catch an imam or minister or anyone who considers himself a Muslim teaching you like that, that's somebody who is trying to hide their own fear of this white man and his world behind their gutter religion, which is fear. Fear of the enemy. It says, but if you are in danger, say your prayers on foot or on horseback. Get the hell up out of there. One way or the other. And then once you're secure, then you can make your salat in the way that it is prescribed to make salat and make prayer. So that's in the Quran, letting you know that what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught and teaches through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is right and exact. Now you see that beautiful brother right there in the middle of the screen. That is, of course, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if you're not familiar with him. And I also want to give our beloved brother, we don't make much of birthdays in the Nation of Islam and in Islam in general, but we did just pass the 123rd birth anniversary of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I mean, when you can't think separation and not think about the messenger, you cannot. You can't. In fact, you can't think about black success, whether it be financial success, economic success, spiritual success, without really thinking of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his prized pupil that's over my shoulder, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But one thing that came to mind as I was preparing to go live is the fact that when we talk separation, there have been two wildly successful examples of separation in the last 100 or so years. Two in particular that really stand out. And we're going to go over those real quick because it's important, especially in light of the 123rd birth anniversary of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. One very clear example that we talk about all the time on NationTown TV, and it's not just because this took place in my hometown. I don't plantation bang. All these cities, all these states here in America are all big plantations. As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, he said this whole country is a plantation. You know, we don't own really a damn thing in none of these cities and states. So it's not based on that. It's due to the fact that Black Wall Street in the early 1900s and the late 1800s is one of the most clear examples of the value of separation. As you can see right here at the bottom of your screen, it just gives you a quick gist of all of the accomplishments in this small area. I'm telling you, the Greenwood area in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's not that big. It's not that big. But they amassed all of this success simply on the back of unity. Unity and necessity. That's what gave us Black Wall Street. Now, what's the second example of supreme separation here in America? Of course, it would be the Nation of Islam, particularly prior to 75. We had our Your supermarket. We fed our own people. We had Salam Restaurant. Other restaurants, steak and takes all over the nation. We shipped our own fresh fish from the waters of Peru. And when they came to the docks, there were actual FOI, black men. You see those black men? Those aren't union stevedores. Those are members of the Nation of Islam. Fish brought in from Peru, international trade. We had the farms in both Georgia and Michigan. I believe there was one in Alabama as well. These are the two greatest examples of separation in our sojourn here in America. Black Wall Street, and of course the Nation of Islam prior to 75. Now you might be asking a question, especially if you're not aware and you're not wide awake. You might be asking the question, okay, well, as it pertains to the nation, what happened? What happened to the business? And don't forget also, we had the schools prior to 75. The Muhammad University of Islam. I think I got a little picture of that as well. Because what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad did, he initially established not just businesses for the sake of making money, but also he established these constructs for the sake of giving what's called a visual aid, of showing us what it's like to really be an independent nation. But again, you might be asking the question, well, what happened? Well, it's two things to consider. One, ask yourself, when was the last time you supported, hell, a black-owned business in general or a nation-owned business? Ask yourself that. And if the answer that pops up in your head is longer than a day ago or a week ago, then that's a part of the problem. The second answer to that is, who told you that we're not doing those things today? You know, I find it interesting that on the movie that everybody loves so much, Black Panther, and in that comic book, Black Panther, Wakanda is a nation that's hidden. When they go to Wakanda, they hit what's like a hillside, and it looks like it's just a bunch of trees, but when it hits it, it goes through this portal, and all of a sudden it's in this vast nation. You better take a second look at the Nation of Islam today, because I'm here to tell you, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the believers, keep in mind, a lot of the business accomplishments prior to 75, those were believers. It wasn't just the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad going in his pocket for everything. There were believers in a lot of the different cities. And today, the believers and the Nation of Islam itself are still very much in business. We still have our farm system. Shout out to our brother Ridgely, a 1,556-acre farm in Georgia, as well as farms in Michigan. The Criterion message was shot live from the Michigan farm. You want more information? Go ahead and go. Check out our Ministry of Agriculture at NOIMOA.com. And there you can actually experience some of the great food that we have. We have our staple goods program. All black owned, all black operated. The staple foods that we need. Because I'm telling you, the pestilence is next. Y'all saw that fly on Mike Pence's head. See, that's the you know, I was half joking on Facebook when I posted that reminded me of the plague of flies in the book of Exodus. I was half joking. I was half joking, half serious. There will be a pestilence next. And in the nation, we'll be good. We have able foods in many parts of the nation. Our own grocery distribution program. And you already know that the schools are still cracking. Muhammad University of Islam, my own wife is one of the instructors at Muhammad University of Islam. So we still getting it in. Please believe. We have Salam Restaurant, all recouped by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It wasn't handed down to him. He didn't inherit it. It was recouped. Please believe. Please understand. Fine dining, even righteous fast food. Blue Seas Express and Catering in Phoenix and Atlanta, and quite possibly coming to a city near you very soon. You can leave that Long John killers alone and deal with some real food. And then, of course, hey, man, this is NationTown, right? NationTownStore.com. You go to any city, you will find believers in business. You'll find businesses ran by believers. It might not have a crescent and a star on the top of it. It might not be called Supreme this or Crescent that or Nation this or Nation that. But entrepreneurship is taught just as much in the Nation of Islam as the white man being the devil. We have Eating Fresh. You may remember Cleaning Fresh in the Power program from the 80s. It's still around. Have you supported it? Will you support it? That's the question. But that's where we are right now. And I wanted to point that out just as a visual aid, as I mentioned before, so we'll understand that separation is not some pipe dream. It's not some pipe dream. The problem is we acting like we own the pipe. We're not doing the things with our money that we should be doing. That was the fuel behind Black Wall Street. That was the fuel behind the rise, the economic rise of the Nation of Islam. It wasn't just in starting businesses. There is no shortage of black businesses in America right now. None whatsoever. In fact, black businesses represent the second biggest employers of black people behind federal and state government. I just wanted to drop that on you, but there's a couple of things to remember about Black Wall Street and the economic rise of the Nation of Islam. One of them was in many ways forced. Those brothers and sisters in Tulsa, Oklahoma had no choice. They couldn't go to downtown Tulsa. They couldn't go to the South Side and spend their money. Because one thing I respect about white bigots in the South back then and even today, they didn't even want black money. See, that was the only real difference between the northern bigot and the southern bigot. The northern bigot would take your money, take your dollar, call you a nigga, and tell you to come back soon. The southern bigot, he'll stop you at the door and say, nigga, this ain't for you. So they had no choice but to do business with each other. And since that dollar was circulating 100% and recycling 100%, they quickly, in the span of 20 years, that's something you got to understand about Black Wall Street. It didn't take no years and years to happen. That shows what can come of recycled dollars almost instantly. And they started off dirt poor. Many of them couldn't even read. But simply because they were recycling their dollars, within 20 years, white people were calling it Black Wall Street. Black people didn't give it that name. News writers from New York gave them that name based on what they did. Now, like I said, one was forced and then the other one was taught. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to do for self when the Nation of Islam was economically progressing and still is. We're taught this. But I'm telling you, both of them are absolutely necessary because really, we don't have a choice today. We only think we do. We've only been tricked into thinking that we have a choice between Eating Fresh and Dove. We only think we have a choice between Eating Fresh. I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, Dove, the Dove personal care products brand, they had an ad that got exposed of some kind of facial cleaner. And in the ad was basically this. It was a sister, a black woman, a dark-skinned black woman pulling her shirt off. And by the time her shirt was off, she was a white girl. So the first two pictures shows her pulling her shirt off. The last two pictures is a white girl. So as to say, if you use this Dove product, then it'll make you whiter and prettier. And this wasn't 60 years ago. This was 3 years ago. So we think we have a choice. You really don't. They still calling you a nigga. They call you a nigga through the way they market their products. They not sicking the hounds on you no more, but they still calling the police. Ask those brothers in Philadelphia that went to Starbucks. But we still are spending 98% of our income with them. So that comes to the understanding that there must be a mental lapse. It must be a mental issue. So that's what we're going to get into. We have to deal with the mental aspect. And by the grace of Almighty God, Allah, he knows that there's something wrong with us. He knows. In fact, he knows because he put us through it. What? Yeah. See, we're taught in Islam that Allah created man to be his Khalifa. Khalifa. Now, imagine, since we're talking a little bit of business, for those who own a business, and even if you don't have a business, you know, imagine if you do. And we don't even have to use the example of a business. Let's use the example of a child. You're looking for a babysitter for your child. A babysitter is basically a Khalifa parent. You are sitting in the seat of that parent while the parent is gone. You determine when that child eats. You prepare the food. You send that child to bed. So, of course, for my parents that are watching, when you are about to find somebody to watch your child while you leave, you're very particular. You need references. It got to be somebody you know and trust. Sometimes in order to know and trust somebody, you got to know what they've been through and you got to know what their experience level is, or you actually sit them down and you talk to them and you quiz them to find out how much they know about taking care of a child or taking care of a business. What makes you think Almighty God, Allah, does not or will not do the same thing with us? You think we're going to sit in his seat as Khalifa and he not put us through trial? He not make sure that we are even fit to be Khalifa? How much sense does that make? I mean, think about it. And this is what I hear. Even a brother, and I want to be clear, this particular brother who responded to one of my posts on Facebook claims to be under the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he is not under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and it showed in his comment. Because he posed the question, why would God, because he was challenging what the minister said in the Criterion message when he said that the pestilence of COVID-19 was a pestilence from God. His exact words, heaven. And he said, oh, why would God do something like that? And I laughed because it's amazing that somebody that claims these teachings would have that fairy tale, you know, very slave Christian-like understanding of God. Who told you God is a superhero? God got to know what we made out of. Think about it. If you call yourself getting in shape, you know, putting on some muscle or losing weight, next time you go to the gym, just look at that thing. Just look around the gym for a minute. You know what you're looking at when you walk into a gym? Shout out to everybody chiming in. Brother Michael J. Muhammad, Wa Alaikum Salam, top soldier. I just saw a throwback picture of you from 1995. Brother Sherman posted it, man. It looked like it was yesterday. Shout out to everybody. Sister Valerie Muhammad. Absolutely shout out to MUI. But next time you go to the gym, look around the gym. You know what you're looking at when you look at a gym, a fitness gym? You're looking at a torture chamber. I'm going to say that again. You're looking at a torture chamber. Everything in that gym, almost everything, is some type of resistance training. You talk to a personal trainer, they'll tell you this is mostly about resistance. You put that dumbbell on your chest. The weight on that dumbbell is resisting your strength. That's why the more weight that you can actually lift, the better. You get on any other machine, it's resistance, it's weight that's pulling back. It's opposing your strength. It's resistance. It's causing things to be difficult for you so that you can advance in stages and degrees physically. Even the elliptical machine. The ground ain't really moving, but it's got this rotor that's moving. And you got to keep up with it. You can turn up the speed on it to make you move even faster. It's a torture chamber. But that torture is necessary. What they say in fitness, no pain, what? no gain. And to be Khalifa, it is no different. We have to be in the shape to deal with the position of being Khalifa. And the same goes with Satan himself. It says in the Bible, in the poison book, when it speaks of the book of Numbers, in the book of Numbers, it talks about the travails of the Hebrews when they left Pharaoh and they were in those 40 years in the wilderness. And even though Moses had did such a great work for them, had pulled them out of the clutches of Pharaoh. See, that's talking about us, first of all. Let me be clear. When you read the book of Exodus, they're not talking about the same Jews that you give all your money to who own all these department stores. It's not talking about them, black man. It's talking about you. It's prophecy, not history. But anyway, Moses had did such a beautiful thing. He split the Red Sea. Now, that's a deeper meaning to that. But hell, if you want to look at it like that, then yeah, he split the Red. I mean, he did all these wonderful things. But check this out. When they were on their way out of Pharaoh's land, they started getting impatient. They started wondering if they had it better under Pharaoh than they did under Moses. And one of their main disputes was just the fact that they was eating the same food every day. Here they were, slaves, Hebrew slaves, and now they mad about the menu. Sound familiar? That sound like the thing, that sound like niggerdom, don't it? That sound like something a Negro would do. Well, let's take a look at it. It's a part of the Bible that's called the bronze serpent. It can be found in the book of Numbers, chapter 21. And it starts with verse, is what you see right here. It says, and they journeyed from Mount Or by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom. And the soul of the people was much discouraged because of the way. And the people spake against God. Pay attention. They spake against God and against Moses. Wherefore have ye brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? You can't tell me these ain't black folks. When you look at the leadership of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you even go back to the leadership of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. They all had to deal with it. And today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, murmurers in the wilderness. And they say, for there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loatheth this life bread. They got bread. See, they lied right there. They lied right there. Man, we ain't got no bread, but we tired of this bread that you giving. That's telling you right there that they lying. And that's what Negroes do. Because they so loved Pharaoh that they cherry-picked and they ridiculed this man that had taken them out of that. But look what the Lord said. The Lord saw how crazy they were acting. And he said the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they beat the people. And much of the people died. Fiery serpents. See, we got to stop reading the Bible like it's a cat in a hat or a comic book or something. It ain't a comic book. It's prophecy and not history. Everything you see in there is talking about something that you see today. Fiery serpents. Fiery serpents. So whether it's COVID-19 or those fiery serpents, this is Allah getting us in shape. Mentally, to uphold our own righteous nation, mentally, to return to the throne of this world, if we understand. And the reason why mental resurrection is so important, because we currently have the mind of our enemy. In fact, let's do a project. I'd be willing to bet you, if you found your typical Negro, not black man, but Negro, self-hating Negro, and you gave him a pen and a piece of paper, and you told him, listen, bruh, or sis, it could be a female too, listen, I want you to write down all the things that you don't like about black people. Now, this is technically a black person. This is a Negro. And if you gave them a pen and paper and said, I want you to write down everything you don't like about black people, and then you went in another room to a KKK Grand Wizard or some Proud Boy, one of them stand back and stand by boys, or a KKK Grand Wizard, and you gave him a pen and you gave him a piece of paper and you said, I want you to write down everything you don't like about black people. The only rule that you give the self-hate Negro and the KKK Grand Wizard is you can't put your name on it. Don't sign your name on it after you're done. But I want both of y'all to write down everything you don't like about black people. When they turn in those letters, do you know it would be almost impossible to decipher which one wrote which one? In fact, both letters would use the same language. Say I'm lying. Both letters would say nigga this, nigga that. These no good and these niggas is shady. These niggas do this. These nigga. You would have a hard time. You would have a hard time. The only way you'd be able to tell is one of them would spell nigga with an A and the other one would spell it with an ER. Possibly. That's the only way you can tell the difference, because we have our enemy's mind. We see everything black in the lens of our enemy. Economics, the same thing. Where we live, the same. We see everything in the lens of our enemy. Like I always talk about that get out the hood mentality. We the only people with that mentality. We the only people who equate success with being other than ourselves. That's a mental issue. In fact, I will use the term, it is a mental retardation. That is no disrespect or mockery of, people that are born with any type of mental or physical disabilities. Because look up that word, retardate. Retard means to just slow something down or stop it or to hinder it. We are hindered based on the fact that we have a mental issue. And many of us, especially in the conscious community, shout out to everybody chiming in. Hit us up with questions and comments. Also, make sure you're sharing this. Make sure you share this. Make sure you share this. But one thing we got to come to terms with, because a lot of people in the conscious community, and I understand this. I talk about it with my wife a lot. Some of us, we just ready to go. Some of us are scared. Some of us are just highly motivated to just get up and do something and go. Let's all move in one community somewhere, or let's do this and do that and do this. And we think we're ready. I'm sorry. We gotta go. But we gotta go up here first. And then it's gotta trickle down to our pockets, and then it makes its way down to our feet. Here's why. By the grace of Almighty God, Allah, the way He set everything up in this universe, there's always a microcosm and a macrocosm. Even in your body, physically. The microcosm of your body are your cells. You have billions and billions of cells in your body. And each cell operates like a human being. You really a walking, talking nation. You're a walking, talking country. And your cells are the citizens. They operate the same way human beings do. They live, they die, they're born, they get in groups, they break away from groups. They do everything human beings do. There's always a microcosm, the small version, and the macro. You're the macro of billions of cells. And even though cells are the macro of atoms, you're made up of trillions upon trillions of atoms. Now, think about this. When you get promoted at your job, you might get promoted from the marketing department because you were so good with advertising. You might get promoted to CEO. What are they promoting you on the basis of? They're promoting you because in this smaller department that you were the head of, you did a fantastic job. So when they promote you to CEO, they're making the educated assumption, the educated estimation that, you know what, you'll do a similar job in the seat of CEO. But you proved yourself in a smaller position. That's how it works in the corporate world. It works that way in sports. Every year when the season is over, somebody's assistant coach, somebody's offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator gets promoted to the head coach. Even if they never had experience as a head coach, they're just operating off of an estimation that he did this good with the defense of this team. Maybe he'll do the same thing as a head coach. So let's be honest and let's look at ourselves. Look at yourself individually. How are you doing with separation right now? Remember last episode we talked about that mentality, when the boat come, I'm ready. No. You got to prove you're ready now. Are you separating financially? Are you separated mentally? Do you think, are you still in the mentality that white ice is colder and that everything that's white is better? Are you still in that mentality? Do you still have to get out the hood? Listen, I understand some people have children and they want to live, and they want the good schools and the good neighborhood. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us from the pages of Message to the Black Man to make our own communities a decent and safer place to live. I mean, that's what everybody else did. That's why you want to move in their communities, because they already did what you should have did. Do you still have that mentality? Think about, because we all got this. We all got something that we purchase on a regular basis from our enemy. Can you go a week without purchasing that cup of Starbucks? Can you go a month? Can you go a year? Can you see yourself going without it forever? And if you start playing games and deceptive intelligence, I order something off of Amazon every now and then, but ain't nothing wrong with that. Whoop-de-whoop, whoop-de-whoop. Oh, okay. All right. You may or may not be ready. If you can't just look at it like, you know what? Yeah, I got some work to do. Well, I can't find this product anywhere else. Man, that's a business opportunity. You having a hard time finding something that you know is in demand? That's a business opportunity. Even if you don't have the skill set to make it yourself, invest in somebody that can. That's a business opportunity. How do you feel about being around your people all day, every day? Some of us got a problem with that. Some of us just got a maximum limit. We got a capacity, a Negro capacity, a black capacity. We go somewhere and too many black folks show up, we ready to go. Oh, but you wanna go back to Africa though. Oh, but you wanna live in a neo Black Wall Street. Oh, okay. You want Wakanda? Okay. No. You playing yourself. You have not mastered the microcosm. Can you turn off the TV? Because that's where the enemy is really doing his work. He ain't doing his work in the church no more like he used to. He ain't doing his work in the mosque like he used to. Because the young people ain't really messing with either one of those like they used to. But we all got our face on our timeline. We all up on television. We all up in Netflix. And that's where he is, waiting on you. Your straight path. Whichever thing you going straight to, there he is, waiting on you. So we got to ask ourselves that. Have we mastered, or are we even trying to master? I haven't mastered it. Are we mastering the microcosm? The position we in right now, how are we doing with that job? All you got to do is walk outside of any so-called ghetto in America and look around. It's Just look around. That'll tell you how you're doing. Because we can separate right where your feet stand right now. Now, I mentioned Black Panther a couple of times. The movie Black Panther. You know, I got a theory that may be very unpopular, because I know y'all love that movie. I enjoyed it. You know, as a little brother that used to, you know, read comic books as a child, I admit I never read Black Panther. They were hard to find when I was a child. But it was an entertaining movie. It really was. It really was. But you know what we really liked about Black Panther? And it shows very keen marketing by Disney and Marvel Comics. You know what we really liked about? You know what we really liked about Black Panther? We like the same thing about Black Panther that we like about McDonald's. We like the same thing about Black Panther that we liked and that we like about Popeye's chicken and that raggedy chemical sandwich that they call a chicken sandwich. It was the same thing, because Black Panther offered us a microwave version of separation. You didn't have to do nothing. You didn't have to change your habits. You didn't have to change your mind. You didn't have to change yourself as a person. You didn't have to love yourself anymore. All you had to do was walk up to the theater, go to the box office, put your money down there and say, I want 2 tickets for Black Panther. And they gave it to you. And all you had to do was sit down on your backside for a couple of hours and watch this. And boom, you got an imaginary helping of separation that you could just, you know, just sit back and just enjoy. That's what we loved about this. It gave us a microwave false image of separation. Now, it was motivating to a certain degree. It was beautiful to see. But like I said earlier, we've been having a Wakanda here in America since the 1930s, for 90 years. But when that's presented to some of us, deceptive intelligence kicks in. That's what we really liked about Wakanda. I know I done made some of y'all mad with that. And I'm going to tell you why some of y'all are mad about that. Because like I said, the enemy done switched up his game. He know we ain't in the church like we used to. Do you know that that was one of the tools? And that was one of the reasons that we were given that stepped-on version of Christianity and that stepped-on version of God through Christianity? They trained the slaves to think that while they worked to build a heaven for the enemy right here on earth, when they die, there's a heaven in the sky waiting on them. So they said, you know what, we'll make that trade. We'll go ahead and work from KC in the morning to KC at night, because we know that once we die from all this hard work, oh, it's all good in the sky. Some of y'all might laugh at our ancestors for thinking that way and falling for that. Some of you may be embarrassed that some of our ancestors thought that way. But some of us still think that way today. We waiting on the next Black Panther so we can get another microwave helping of false separation while we really do nothing for ourselves today. And the enemy knows that. So because he's going to continue to give us these stories, these fairy tales, because we used to look up to the sky for our salvation. Now we looking at the screen for our salvation. This enemy know what he doing. He know exactly what he doing. And I know some of y'all have a problem with that. But let's go a little bit deeper before we get out of here. Let's go a little bit deeper into what we mean by the mental aspect of separation. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Make sure y'all share this. Make sure y'all share this. One thing we got to deal with is atonement and reconciliation. Because we're taught something in the Nation of Islam that we lose, that even believers and the teachers lose sight of. I lose sight of it sometimes. I see it you know, being misconstrued and just completely misplaced. And that is the teaching of settling on the best part of each other. A lot of us water that down and think that what it means is just, okay, just play nice. Like you tell two children playing in a playpen, just be nice to each other. Share the ball, share the game, just share, just be nice. We think that that's what settle on the best part means. That's not what settle on the best part means. That is a very cheap interpretation of settling on the best part. First of all, you got to deal with what a settler is. Don't misconstrue it. You know, you hear sisters say sometimes, you know, I ain't gonna settle for just any kind of man. See, that's a different kind of settler. That's not what settle on the best part means. When you settle for something, it's much different than settling on something. See, settling for something is a compromise. It's taking a bootleg or a cheaper version of what you really want. You really want the Lamborghini, but you know what? You'll take the Kia. You'll push the Kia. You really want the Bentley, but you know what? For right now, I'll push the Chrysler 300. You know, that'll work for now. You really want any kind of car, but you know what? Right now, I'll take the bus. See, that's settling for. We're talking about settling on the best part. And when you're thinking like that, you got to start thinking like a settler. They taught you about settlers back in school. Now, they didn't tell you the full story. They told you that all the white people that came to America were settlers. And all they were rapists, they were murderers, they were robbers. But in its essence, in a lot of ways, they were settlers. We talked about Black Wall Street. The black people who built that were settlers. Now, because of the racial environment back then, they couldn't pick what part of the city they wanted to live in. But when you go to a land that you're not a native of or you're not familiar with, if you're smart and you're looking for a good place to start a family or to build your family, you take on a settler's mentality. Where should I settle? Okay, you want to make sure that you settle somewhere that's close to some water. You need water. You're a human being. You got to wash your clothes. You know, think about it like an old, you know, little house on the prairie type days, them days. Western, old West days. You know, they settled somewhere where there was an outlet to the water. They can, you know, they can get some water. They can grow some crops. So they didn't want to settle in the middle of a desert. They didn't want to settle somewhere that had barren land. They wanted to settle there that they can produce something there. So when you're settling on the best part of your brother and sister, you're not just playing nice. You're just not being nice. You're looking on something about them that you can build on. That's how you build on your own self. That's how you add to your own attributes. We should all be striving to collect attributes. You know, like youngins used to collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I used to collect football cards. You know, you want to collect all the great players. You wanted Deion. You wanted Deion Sanders. You wanted Emmitt Smith. You wanted Bruce Smith. You wanted Troy Aikman. You wanted Jim Kelly. You wanted Warren Moon. You know, you wanted Randall Cunningham. You know, you wanted Jerry Rice. You wanted those cards. You want to collect all of those. Almighty God Allah has 99 attributes. You want to collect those. How do you collect them? You cannot collect them by settling on the worst part. Because here's the trick that you play on yourself mentally when you settle on the worst part. If every time you're in a room of black people, you looking for what's wrong with the brother or the sister sitting next to you, and you settling on their worst part, then what you do, you play a mind game on yourself. Let's say a brother, you feel like a brother, you know, he got a really bad attitude. You don't like his attitude. You don't like just how he deals with people. So you settle on that. Every time you see him, you think about that aspect of him. So let's say that your attitude really ain't much better. You need improvement in that area. But just because your attitude is not as bad as that brother, you'll allow yourself to remain at that low level of your own attitude just because you think your attitude is better than his. So you'll never level up. Now, if you're settling on the best part, You run into that brother and you know that brother and you know he's a great father. He's a great father, like my brother Michael 22, Michael J. Muhammad. If you know he's a great father and you constantly settle on that, you constantly look at that, you'll start paying attention to what he does. You'll start paying attention to the fact that he spends a certain amount of time with his children every day, no matter how hard he works. You'll start realizing that, you know what, he always takes his son. He always takes his daughter. Anywhere that he legally can take his child, he makes sure he spends time with his children. Interesting. And even when you're talking to him and dealing with him, the fact that you understand and settle on his best part, that'll help you to even deal with him. It'll soften him up. If he's the same brother with the bad attitude, if you approach him like, man, brother, I just love how you deal with your children, that'll probably soften him up. You might see another side of him. We don't know how to do that. We settle on the worst part. And settling on the worst part hurts you because it keeps you at a certain level. But when you constantly settling on best parts, you also learning how those people deal with their best parts. They probably didn't always have that attribute. They probably learned it over time. So now you're able to learn from them. Now your attributes are just leveling up every day. You go from 10 to 15 to 20. You running up on that 99 every day because you constantly pulling from your brothers and your sisters. We don't know how to do that. And then when we run into that poor part or that worst part, remember our lessons in the Nation of Islam for the believers that are watching, we don't say to ignore. There's nothing in our teachers to say ignore the poor part. It says that the original man, the God, does not care about the poor part. We toss that to the side. If you ever had a job or if your mama ever made you, sort vegetables, or I even had the horrible experience. This probably pushed me to Islam. I had the horrible experience of cleaning chitlins. If you can run into bad chitlins. Yeah, they all bad, but you can run into one that's really discolored. And you got to throw that one away. Sometimes when you sorting through beans, sometimes rocks get into beans. So make sure when you buy beans, you always sort through it. It could be rocks in the bean. You throw that away. You're aware of it, but you don't care about it. You throw it away into the sea of forgetfulness. We don't know how to do that. And when we have one or two bad experiences, we settle on it. We live on it. We build on that for the rest of our lives. Man, I don't mess with black businesses because I went in one time, they shorted me 2 packs of hot sauce. Oh, I don't like, I was in the Nation. Oh, I used to be a Black Panther. Oh, I used to be a Hebrew Israelite. But man, I went there one day and this brother, he looked at me wrong and I ain't never. See, you settling on the worst part. And I know you know how to settle on. I know we know how to settle on the best part because we do it with white folks all the time. There's no logical reason that you would spend 98% of your money with your #1 oppressor of the last 450 years. That makes 0 sense that you would finance your own oppression. That's because you say, you know what? White folks ain't worth a damn, but damn, Starbucks got some good coffee. You know what? White folks ain't worth a damn, but man, I love that mall. That's my favorite mall. I go there. I drive 30 minutes to that mall every day, every time I want to shop. Yeah, white folks ain't worth a damn. Yeah, Bill Gates ain't worth a damn, but man, I love Windows. I love my Microsoft. I love my Xbox. Even though he trying to deplete the population with diseases and vaccines, you know what? That new Xbox about to come out. I gotta get that. See, that's settling on a best part of your enemy. Okay, they made a good product. Okay, so you go and buy it. Never mind how they treat you. So we got to deal with atonement. We got to atone with each other. And since this is the 5-year anniversary of 10-10-15, in which I had the pleasure of being at, I saw almost 1 million Aboriginal people gathered together in peace. And we coming up on the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March. And in that spirit, and since we're talking about atonement, we're not going to be on much longer. Let's hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as it pertains to the value of atonement.
Any of the great servants of God So today, whether you like it or not, God brought the idea through me. And he didn't bring it through me because my heart was dark with hatred and anti-Semitism. He didn't bring it through me because my heart was dark and I'm filled with hatred for white people and for the human family of the planet. If my heart were that dark, how is the message so bright, the message so clear, the response so magnificent? And so we stand here today at this historic moment. We are standing in the place of those who could not make it here today. We are standing on the blood of our ancestors. We are standing on the blood of those who died in the Middle Passage, who died in the fields and swamps of America, who died hanging from trees in the South, who died in the cells of their jailers, who died on the highways, and who died in the fratricidal conflict that rages within our community. We are standing on the sacrifice of the lives of those heroes, our great men and women, that we today may accept the responsibility that life imposes upon each traveler who comes this way. We must accept the responsibility that God has put upon us, not only to be good husbands and fathers and builders of our community, but God is now calling upon the despised and the rejected to become the cornerstone and the builders of a new world. And so our brief subject today is taken from the American Constitution in these words: toward a more perfect union. Toward a more perfect union. Now, when you use the word more with perfect, that which is perfect is that which has been brought to completion. So when you use more perfect, you're either saying that what you call perfect is perfect for that stage of its development, but not yet complete. When Jefferson said toward a more perfect union, he was admitting that the union was not perfect, that it was not finished, that work had to be done. And so we are gathered here today not to bash somebody else. We're not gathered here to say all of the evils of this nation, but we are gathered here to collect ourselves for a responsibility that God is placing on our shoulders to move this nation toward a more perfect union.
All praises are due to Allah. That was the first full lecture from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that I ever set up and watched. And that was on October 16, 1995. I sat in my mama's living room watching that. I ended up saying the pledge right there in my living room. You know, I was a little boy and watching that. Little did I know that 8-foot-tall brother standing next to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our own Captain Shaheed Muhammad out here on the West Coast. Beautiful brother. But one thing that jumps out at me about that excerpt, notice that the minister talks about how in the founding documents of this nation, of America, they spoke of the need of a more perfect union. Now, we're talking about the 3 steps of separation: mental, financial or economic, and then physical or geographical. And the mental and the economic, whether you like it or not, they are prerequisites of proper separation. However, perfection is not a prerequisite of separation. You do not need to be a perfect Muslim. You do not need to be a perfect brother, a perfect sister. You do not need to have a perfect understanding of government, the perfect understanding of how to raise crops, perfect understanding of how to run a small town, perfect understanding of this, perfect understanding of that, because this white man didn't even have a perfect understanding. What they did have was a near perfect, I say near perfect, purpose. Their purpose was liberation. Liberation is prescribed for any human being. Nobody should be under tyranny. In fact, the founding fathers, the original seal that the minister talks about in that very lecture, the original seal of the United States said, rebellion against tyrants is obedience to God. So you can't even say that you're a Muslim or say that you're a Christian or say that you're even a spiritual person. We got black folks today talking about they worship their ancestors, whatever that means. Okay, but you can't even say that if you have obedience to tyrants. And in this day and age, the clearest form of obedience to something is when you put your money into it. That is the clearest form of obedience. We're taught in the nation that, you know, my word is bond, bond is life, and I will give my life before my word shall fail. And that's what we're taught, and that's what we believe, and that's the way the world should believe. But unfortunately, we live in a world that more reflects that scripture, I think in the book of Matthew, that says, wheresoever a man's treasure is, so is his heart. So we have obedience to tyrants, but claim obedience to God. You can't do both at the same time. You just can't. Two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So this country was founded on the sin of slavery. But the purpose that they claimed, which was liberation, was very near perfect. So they put that together first. See, they settled on the best part of each other. Let me tell you something. The Civil War, after the Revolutionary War, the biggest war after the Revolutionary War, it wasn't the very next war, but the biggest war that followed that was what? The Civil War. Please believe that conflict existed even before America became an independent nation. The redcoats, the blue coats, listen, they had beef before that. You better believe that there were slave masters in the South during the Revolutionary War who really didn't like George Washington and them. You better believe it. But they put that to the side and said, listen, we can't even beef with each other right now because we are under the tyranny of the kingdom. We under the tyranny of the queen. We under the tyranny of Britain. And look how they started. They started the Revolutionary War. Didn't start with a fired shot. It didn't start with a gun. It didn't start with a bomb. It didn't start with some kind of invasion. The Revolutionary War started with the economic embargo. They said the first thing we got to do to break away from Britain is to take our dollar out of their pockets. Why are we paying them and they doing nothing for us? Taxation without representation. One of their most popular products at the time was tea that was imported from Britain. To this day, they still import tea from Britain. And they cut it off. They said from now on, we ain't getting no tea from Britain. And you know, white folks love them some tea. They love cheese, mayonnaise, tea, unseasoned chicken. They love them some tea. But they said, you know what? Until we get free, no more tea. How many people watching this can say no more Jordans for a minute? How many of you can say no more Starbucks? How many of you can say, you know what, I don't care that they coming out with a new PlayStation? How many of you can say, I don't care what kind of sale they got going on Amazon? I don't care how quick they send Amazon products. I don't care. How many of you can look at your brother who you got a problem with for whatever reason and say, you know what? I don't like what he did to me, but you know what? I ain't tripping on that until we get free. How many of you can put little, theological issues to the side? You're a Hebrew Israelite and you don't really like what the Muslims believe. You're a Muslim, you don't really like what the Hebrews believe. You this kind of follower of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, but you don't like what this kind of follower of the most. How many of you are willing to put that aside? If you're not willing to do that and you're not currently doing that, you don't qualify for separation. I don't care how much it come out your mouth. You don't qualify yet. You can get there. We can get there. But we don't qualify yet because even our enemy, this weak bone, weak body, weak brained enemy of ours, weak blooded enemy of ours, had the sense to say, you know what? I don't really like how they doing it down south. But we ain't gonna trip on that. Because we got a common enemy over there in Britain across the pond. And we gonna deal with them first. They took a luxury. That tea that they was shipping from Britain was top-notch tea. It's like you and your Popeye's chicken sandwich. It tastes good. They had some good tea coming out of Britain. That was like your Starbucks cup. It was good. But they said, no, not today. We gonna deal with them and we gonna start our own tea. They start importing tea from other places illegally, from Central American, economic constructs. They start doing deals with other countries, Mexico and stuff like that. It's like we ain't dealing with Britain because we breaking away from them. We can learn a lot from that. Another thing that we have to work on that's mental is patience. Now, remember what I said. Black Wall Street in the late 19th century by black people who couldn't even hardly read. Former slaves, former sharecroppers were able to build Black Wall Street in the span of 20 years, really less than 20 years. Remember, the Emancipation Proclamation was what, 1865? Black Wall Street was attacked in 1921. They earned the name Black Wall Street not in 1921. They earned that in the earlier 1900s, like 1908, 1910. So you do the math. It wasn't a long span of time before they started to build that community up. Back then, without the internet, without college degrees, without the extra money that we got, the stock options that we got, all this stuff that we got now. They didn't have that back then. They had transportation issues. They couldn't even, some of them didn't even have roofs over their head. But we got to still be patient because we live in a microwave, instant gratification society. Especially with the internet, we think everything, if it don't happen tomorrow, we go back to what we was doing. Oh, it didn't work. Sorry. We back in the bosom of our enemy. So we got to be patient. There got to be some patience involved. In fact, let me put it in perspective. A lot of us are really in love with this country, are really in love with America. And it's an election year, you see that. But they say Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. And he did discover it. That's not false. If you have a small child in your house right now, I guarantee you your small child is discovering something for the first time. They pick up a pencil and they're going to say, wow, a pencil. And they just discovered that. You put a crayon in their hand, they are discovering that crayon. They're going to put it to some paper and it's going to make a pretty color on the paper. And they're going to say, wow, I've discovered a crayon. So they've discovered it for themselves as a child. It ain't nothing to you. You came before that child. So he did discover America for his people. But that was 1492. I just got through talking about the Revolutionary War. That was in the 1700s. So you're talking about 200 to 300 years before America got its independence. It took them 200 with free labor. Now with slaves, it took them damn near 300 years to get free. with slaves. It's not going to take that long with us. It's not even going to take more than a couple of decades when we get our head together. You know, in the legal system, they got something called time served, where a brother been sitting in county for 3 years waiting on his trial date. And if he mess around and gets sentenced or whatever, he might still get off just off of time served if it's a 3-year offense. We have time served here in America. We already been in this sojourn for 300-400 years, going on 500 years. We got time served. So it's as simple as us getting our mind together. And that's what God is waiting on. That's what Master Father Muhammad is waiting on. He's just waiting on us to wake up, man. We got time served. But you still just got to be patient. You know, and like I said, we got to be able to just settle on the best part and really explore what that really means. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Sister Valerie says we're so guilty. We are, sister. We are guilty, you know, but there's always, you know, our Supreme Captain, Mustafa Farrakhan, you know, always says, you know, the biggest room in the house is the room for improvement. It's the room for improvement. But what we got to also stop doing is hiding behind our fear of our enemy and our lack of love of self, you know, and using it to shield. We're using it as a shield. Especially some of my conscious, so-called conscious and woke brothers and sisters. We starting to, you know, we say, well, I hear what you're saying, but I don't believe in everything that Farrakhan teaches. I don't believe in everything the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches. I don't believe in everything. Do you believe in everything that the CEO of Best Buy believes? Do you even know what he believes? When you go get a pair of Jordans, do you believe 100% in what Phil Knight believes? Do you even know who Phil Knight is? Do you know that his religion, they believe that Jesus should be boiling in his own excrement? He's an Ashkenazi Jew. He got a right to be that, but that's what he believed. That's what Ashkenazi Jews believe. But you didn't ask nobody that when you went and bought those infrared Jordans. You didn't ask nobody that. You didn't go up in Foot Locker and say, wait a minute, what does Phil Knight believe? And if I don't believe 100% in what he believes, then I'm going somewhere else with my money. I'm just saying, keep that same energy with your enemy. Now, I'm going to finish with this. Now, the believers here in Los Angeles that know me, even some of you outside of Los Angeles that know me, you know, I come up with little epithets every now and then. And I want to talk, I'm going to close out with something that I call, if you're familiar with the Bible, you're familiar with the 7-day theory. Our brother Tupac, his last real album was called Machiavelli, you know, the 7-day theory. Well, I got another theory, another 7th theory that really paints our mental issues and what can happen if we actually overcame those issues. We're going to call this the 7 nigga theory. I want you to follow your little brother real quick. Let's talk about the 7 nigga theory. I'm going to say it again. The 7 nigga theory. What is the 7 nigga theory? The 7 nigga theory is this. Follow me on this. If you took 7 niggas, not black people, not wide awake black men or women, Asiatic black men or women, if you took 7 niggas and locked them into a room and you left them there, and then 5 minutes later, you came back to check on them. Just 5 minutes later, after locking 7 niggas into a room, if you came back 5 minutes later and looked into that room, you know what you would see? Now, 7 niggas in the room, so you would have 3 niggas on the left side of the room, 3 niggas bunched up on the right side of the room, and then there would be 1 nigga in the middle. And he's standing by himself because he don't like the niggas on the left side of the room and he don't like the niggas on the right side of the room. So in other words, by the time you come back in 5 minutes, that group of 7 niggas will have split off into 3 different groups. in 5 minutes. But if you took 7 Asiatic wide awake black men, and if you were even able to lock them in a room, 7 black men in a room, 7 black men in a room, and you left for 5 minutes and came back to check on them, you know what you would find? You would find an empty room, and the door would be busted wide open. Why would you find an empty room where you locked 7 wide awake Asiatic black men? Because those 7 brothers somehow, some way put their brains together, put their minds together, didn't settle on their differences, didn't settle on what they didn't have in common. They put their heads together and they found a way to get the hell up out that room. That is the 7 nigga theory. And I stand by it. And I will die by that. That you cannot continue to hold down wide awake Aboriginal people. But the more niggerdom we have in us, see, a lot of us are not really wide awake. Some of us are slightly awake. Some of us are half awake. Some of us about a mile long awake. The best of us are running around there. You know what you see when you look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? You looking at a wide awake man. That's what we love about him. He's a wide awake. And because he's wide awake, he can go teach in the church. Because he's wide awake, he rebuilt the nation with brothers in his coalition who were Hebrew Israelites, who were Christians, who were nationalists, who were atheists. His teaching has converted atheists. If you're watching this, I'm pretty sure you've heard of Dr. Wesley Muhammad. By his own admission, he was an atheist before he came into this teaching. If you're watching this, you probably heard of the national spokesperson for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Sister Dr. Ava Muhammad, who, by the way, will be teaching this Sunday on NOI.org. By her own admission, she was an atheist before she came into this teaching. This is a man that can walk into any room, and by the time he walks out, they're willing to work with him and gush over him. What I just showed you was the Million Man March. That was 2 million black men. Those were not 2 million members of the Nation of Islam. It might be 2 million brothers and sisters out there that know the teachings or have heard the teachings. I don't even say myself that I know the teachings. To me, that's a very arrogant thing to say. But there may be 2 million people out there who have heard of the teachings, but that wasn't 2 million Muslims. In fact, probably less than 10% or more, maybe even less than 5% were actual Muslims. And an even smaller percentage were active believers in the Nation of Islam. The rest were everything else, Christians, atheists, whatever the case may be. Even your president, Barack Obama, was there. Because he's a wide awake, Aboriginal, Asiatic black man. And as soon as we don't even have to get up. Remember, I said perfection is not a prerequisite for this. But some of the obvious things, you want to go from point A to point B and you don't know how to put one foot in front of the other, that's a debilitating issue right there. And you got to deal with that. So that's what this series is about. It's about putting one foot in front of the other. I appreciate y'all holding it down with me. I said it would be about 40 minutes. We went a little bit past that. But I thank y'all for just touching down with me. We're going to do the next part where we're going to go into the economic. The economic might be 2 parts in itself, because that's a major key. That is a major key that we all have room to work on. The economic side of separation. But with that said, I want to thank y'all for chiming in. Make sure y'all share this message if you haven't already. And I'm going to leave y'all as I greeted y'all in the words of peace. We said in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum.
I was told to deliver this message.